We're back with another episode of Typical Trending Thoughts.
My name is Krista.
And I'm Ash, Rosa, Grillo.
And today we're going to talk about art. Now, would you like to start this? Because I think you know a lot more about art than I do.
Yeah, definitely. So I draw, sometimes I paint, usually oil paint, and then I also do clay. And what I've found in the art community, especially social media plays such a big part in it. People are very pressured to continuously push out art at unrealistic rates just to be kind of popular.
Right.
And so it's kind of it's very obscure the way that the expectation of artists nowadays has really changed a lot of the quality of art, a lot of the way we create it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I do. Because I see on TikTok all the time, all the artists, they go in there, and again, TikTok, the video time can be a minute or two, but most of them stick to the 60 or 30, even 6 seconds mark.
Definitely.
So it's just very intense. I think that's the best way that I can put it. When I see an artist, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so good.
It's really competitive, but also as an artist, you want to be validated. You want to be told that you're doing well. Especially, and so seeing all these having such easy access to all these different artists and all their work is very easy to compare yourself. Very easy to get kind of disencouraged to do stuff, to improve your talents, and even sometimes to just begin art. So many of my friends are oh, I love drawing, but I'm so bad at it. I'm that it's because you never draw.
You gotta practice.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the only reasons why I'm good at drawing and stuff, because I've been doing it ever since I was a kid. And when you're a kid, it's you have low expectations, and so obviously for a kid,
low expectations.
Yeah, no, for a kid, I was a really good drawer. You know, for a kid. I constantly got that reassurance of oh my god, you're so good at drawing, and I was oh, okay, I am. And so I actually got good eventually. You know, but that doesn't necessarily happen. And then a lot of the times people just lose motivation. Yeah, because it's for example, if you draw fan art, and then you're trying to draw this and and then you're I don't care about this show anymore, and all your followers are we don't like you.
Oh yeah, I see those Instagram accounts all the time where it's they're known for specific a movie that they specifically draw, or just a show, I don't know, but when they stop doing that, all their fans just leave because they're we're only here for this specific
or if they
one.
change their art style too.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people change their art style, develop it as an artist, because you're always developing, you're always changing, you're always improving. Right. You know, as an artist, you want to it's your personality in a sense. You're not gonna have the same personality for 3 years. Yeah, it's gonna be a little different.
You're gonna change, you're gonna improve, or you may fall back, whatever, it happens.
Yeah, and so a lot of the times it's oh, they changed their art style, I don't like this art style anymore. I'm dude.
Well, no, I feel the rise in art, well, for once, one thing to say is that I've been seeing a lot lately that a lot of people are getting into I don't know how to professionally say it, but classical art, I guess.
Oh,
Van Gogh, they're going to museums.
Yeah,
I love this
the old masters.
Artist. Yes. Yeah. They're going and they're seeing all these arts, and I think that's very, very good. Yeah. But I don't know. It just, I feel a side, it's two-faced, because it's oh, you're appreciating an artist from long ago, but you're really only doing it for the aesthetic.
I definitely think people think they're better than everyone else. They're
yes.
Oh my god, I only look at realism, or I only look at contemporary art, or I only look at bananas on walls. And they think they're so cool. Yeah. Because they're they think they're knowledgeable on this art, but in reality, art is it is what you want it to be. Yeah, if you want to spend 20 hours doing something realistic, do something like that. Or if you want to create a goofy looking pot, do that. But what a lot of people who aren't artists don't understand is that it's not a lot of the times it may look like something a blob or something ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But there's sometimes a lot of meaning behind things. Yeah. And then things that for example, sometimes you just create things because you like it.
It doesn't have to have a meaning behind it. It's just it's a banana.
It's it's
a bowl of fruit. What do you want me to say about it?
Yeah, it's
I hit the mic, sorry.
It is what it is, and I think a lot of people tend to have this superiority complex over other people because they're like, oh, I go to art museums. I'm like very traditional, very classical.
I'm very down to earth.
Oh, like dark academia, light academia, aesthetics. God. Like you are not bringing aesthetics into art.
Everything goes back to aesthetics. It's so bad nowadays.
Literally, it's so we have to group everything in a very constricting way. Yeah. Like I'm not against grouping things, but it's very constricting the way people do it.
Yeah, it's very it's like you have to do it. It feels like if you don't fit a certain aesthetic, most people are gonna think like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, definitely.
You're kind of weird, and it's like, no, I can just do whatever I want.
And then there's also like
to art.
Not only like, oh, you don't fit a certain aesthetic, but it's also like you don't have to fit just one. And I think a lot of people have a lot of different art styles. Yes. Like I know people, like it's actually very good to like have a foundation of realism before you like try doing illustration or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of taboo against like doing like anime art, and that got a lot of people into art.
I saw YouTube videos. Well, I like to watch people who do draw for a living, and they would always say like, yeah, in high school I really was just into like anime drawing, and my teachers would just like hurt me for that.
Yeah,
and, like,
I saw a lot of that. No, art school's brutal. Like I've heard so much. Art school is literally just la di da di da or Yeah, you know, like, it's so brutal sometimes.
The best of both worlds.
no, because I've heard like some like art students be like, oh, you know, I wrote a paper on like Twilight for my final and I got an A, and then I've heard people be like, oh, I put my heart and soul into this piece and my teacher like completely destroyed it.
Oh my god.
Because I think a lot of art teachers are trying to find like some hidden meaning. It's just like it's not there. It's not there.
I think older artists are more again into like the realism.
Definitely.
And like everything has to have a meaning, and it feels like nowadays everything is more just contemporary.
Yeah.
Right? Is that the word? I think.
Yeah. But I do think there's like an extent. Like I'm not gonna like look at a dot on paper and be like, let me spend millions of dollars on that.
For some reason, I get the meaning behind that type of art. I know that it's more about like the meaning than it is about how it looks. I'm not sure. But when I go to a museum and I just see like, I don't know, a shoe on the ground and it's supposed to have a meaning, I'm like, I'm looking at a shoe.
Yeah. But there's a lot of like really controversial like art pieces throughout time, and a lot of the times a lot of like quote unquote art pieces tend to also be sometimes political pieces. Like there's this like one art piece, I don't remember what it's called, but basically this woman who was quote unquote the artist, she like had these like she had a lot of layers of clothes on, and she invited people to come cut layers off. Yeah. And that was considered a work of art because it had a lot of like meaning. It had a lot of like things. Yeah. And there was another one of this woman who was like, she tied herself up, I believe, and then she had a table full of weapons and like a bunch of other random stuff. And like she even had a handgun. And at one point, someone like put the handgun to her head. She like thought she was gonna die.
What the heck?
Yeah.
See, that's the part when I get confused. I'm like, what?
Yeah, so there's definitely like a really like the line between art and just something like existing, like an action, is very thin nowadays.
It feels like just anything can be described as quote unquote art nowadays.
But it's one of those things where it's like, oh, what's classy if you're poor? What's trashy if you're poor? Classy if you're rich? Oh, that's literally what it is. Because like when a poor person is like, okay, I'm gonna like I get what I have, and I'm gonna like try to draw something that has like a lot of meaning. It has like a lot of like, it can be controversial, right? Yeah. It can be very like out of the box,
right?
It's like, no, get out of my face. Like this is like trashy. Just do a bunch of trash together.
Yeah.
But when a rich person does it, it's like, oh wow,
they put one dot.
That's like so. That's so amazing.
That's so meaningful. Like I see the message behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just really weird.
And I also think a lot of people tend to like completely disregard like 3D art. Like when people are talking about art.
What would you describe 3D art as?
Literally any sculpture.
Oh, sculpture. Oh, okay.
Like any sculpture whatsoever.
Nothing that's like
not necessarily
or drawing.
Not necessarily interactive art, but it can be. 3D art can also be like, you know, those interactive art pieces.
Oh my god, I love those.
Yeah, there was this one I don't remember where it was, but it was like the spatula that like the mechanical spatula, and it was cleaning up its mess. But the more it cleaned, the more it made a mess of.
Yeah, because
like I literally cried.
The machine thinks that like it needs to clean up this mess to survive.
Yeah.
But the mess keeps on like going away, so it just cleans for the rest of its life.
And then sometimes it would like get really frustrated, and then it would just like completely like spin in control. I was like, that is so me.
It's so I really like that piece, because like you won't see that like back in the 1800s, obviously, but it's like nowadays that's what I call like quote unquote futuristic art. I don't know.
Definitely.
I just
it
so
has like
cool.
I think art with like the sense of like bringing in like influences from the modern world and like technology and everything.
Right, yeah.
is very like, it's very impressive, and it's a lot of the times extremely underrated. I think like when people talk about like, oh, you know, I'm an artist, people like assume, oh, do you paint? Yeah. And they're like, I'm like, no, because I do paint, I do sketch, but I mainly do sculpture. Yeah. And like people don't like, and then they think, oh, sculpture, so you like do the wheel. I'm like, no.
There's a lot of different types of like 3D art. Like you said, you can do basically anything. That's
like a metal welding is one of my favorite.
Oh my
kinds
God.
of 3D art. It's very amazing.
Again, you can basically make almost anything.
You definitely can.
3D art. And I think that's really cool. It's funny because like us just as human beings, you're like, let's just make this art. I don't know why, but let's just do it.
Yeah, we tend to gravitate towards like creating in any way, shape, or form. Humans have always gravitated towards creating.
We like uniqueness.
Yeah, we do.
Really like uniqueness. But I feel like going towards like quote unquote futuristic art, I feel like one art that I think excuse me, I think it's kind of like not necessarily ruined art, AI art.
Yeah, it's definitely like, where is the line between how much technology can we put into art? Yeah, because basically what AI art is, like, I don't know if you guys know this, but essentially what it does is it takes in data, aka other people's work, sometimes without permission. Yeah. But a lot of these people don't have their art trademarked, and you also can't trace this AI art taking like your work and like examining it. So like if you post your work to social media, chances are the AI is gonna learn from that. You know what I mean?
Artificial intelligence is very scary.
Yeah, and it was unnecessary, and people are like, oh well, it's helpful because this and this and that. I'm like, I feel like we could have used this for like 15 other things that could have been more helpful. Like, artists like being artists. Yeah, but they don't just like the finished product. They like working on their things.
Yeah, and with AI generated art, you just snap. I don't know if you've seen TikTok, but there was a trend where you would just use that. I don't know if it's a filter on TikTok or not, but it was like an AI art filter.
It is a filter on TikTok.
It'll just take seconds for it to make an art, where it takes artists like hours or even days to create one.
Like it's a trend on my For You page still. Like, it was at first it was the anime one, and then now it's like the like contemporary, like old kind of style, like portraits. Okay. Yeah. And so I get very frustrated because a lot of people just think, oh, you know, it's this harmless thing, but in reality it's like it's taking a lot of artists' livelihood, because people are like, because it's in terms of like what capitalism is kind of like creating an environment as, like, okay, we don't have a whole lot of money to go spend on like a commission for some artist on Instagram. Yeah. I have 3 seconds or like maybe $5 to like go on the internet and like look at like get AI art done. You know what I mean? So it's a matter of what's more convenient, what's cheaper, but it's also,
it's damaging.
It's very damaging.
It's damaging for artists. And I feel very bad because, in my opinion, I love classical art. Yeah. Like, when people, like, I love Van Gogh. I'm sorry. He's, like, a classic, but he's really good. Monet. Love it so much. I just love that type of art better than, like, this now new, it only takes a few seconds for it to like upload art. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot.
There's no emotion. There's no personality. Exactly. There's no uniqueness.
It creates meaning from taking so much time and dedication into an art piece. Yeah. So like when I see these things on TikTok where it's just like you snap a button and then there you go, I'm just like, it looks cool, but there's nothing else to it.
Yeah, it's very one dimensional.
Right. Yeah.
And I think a lot of the times, like in terms of like old art, people don't really take into account like the influences like a lot of like people of color have had on these artists.
That's another thing.
And it's really like amazing. Like Picasso, his like Cubism style was based on I think it was like somewhere in like southern Africa.
Right.
They had been doing that kind of art style for like centuries.
Yeah.
And so he kind of observed that and he saw that. And that goes for sculptures too.
Yeah.
A lot of like African style sculptures people have like taken.
Yeah.
Like
they're like, write that down.
Yeah, literally. And they kind of take a lot of influence from that, and then people give them credit as, oh, this was a very creative idea they came up with on their own. And I'm like,
no,
it's nothing. There's nothing wrong with doing it, but that's definitely, they're not giving credit where credit is due, and I find that very frustrating.
Yeah, it's like you can be inspired by something, but like you said, it's important to give credit. It's important to. I feel like it'll be a lot better if Picasso like made the paintings and things like that, but like he referenced like where he found this from, what inspired him, and like where to find even other types of artists from that area.
I think another thing is that like a lot of people just don't know, they're not knowledgeable. They have such a base like knowledge of like artists and like, oh, this is Picasso and this is Van Gogh and then this is Frida Kahlo and then these are my favorite artists.
My bad, that's me.
No, I mean, and that's completely fair. Like, I'm not telling everyone to like go do your research on art right now. Like, you don't have to like know so much about art to like.
I don't like it when people like are like, oh yeah, I know everything about art, and then they're like, oh yeah, him.
Like, definitely don't speak on like an artist's issue if you don't really know anything.
Definitely.
Because like I think a lot of people, like a lot of artists were very problematic. Like Frida Kahlo was a very problematic person because she didn't like really like she grew up in Mexico, but her family was mostly white. And so she took a lot of her like inspiration for her art from native people in the area.
Right.
And then she just did not like give credit at all.
Give credit,
So it's like a lot of artists are given too much hype. And like I'm all for like enjoying like museums and enjoying old art, but it's like, are you actually enjoying it, or are you just
looking at it
liking what you were told to like?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's frustrating.
Yeah. I went, oh gosh, it was like, I'll say about like 2 or 3 years ago, I went to Laurel, no, not Louisiana, somewhere in the States, I forgot. But I went there and we went to a museum where it was a lot of people of color artists. Like that was it. There was no white generic artists. And I found that so cool. I don't remember any of the names, sadly, but there was this one specific area where it's like from like the 50s and 60s movements for just like rights in general. And I found like, it was this art piece. It had like, I'll say about 100 combs.
Right.
But it was like a brand new one, and then it just got smaller and smaller and like weaker. The bristles started to like chip off. And that was like basically representing how people of color back then had only like a small amount of materials for themselves, and like it showed like on the side like the full-on story of like how they struggled back then, and how like this is how they had to live their lives because people weren't like seen. They weren't distributing the necessary resources for them. And I found that so cool. And I feel like that I love when they have a story behind it. Like you can go on the side and it's like a full-on page of just a story. Definitely. I will read that for hours. But I cannot sit in front of, like you said,
like don't leave me guessing.
Yeah, don't leave me guessing, because I'm
like if you want to do something obscure and creative, that's wonderful. Just do not leave me guessing. Explain it to me, please.
Because I'm gonna get the wrong idea. I'll be like, is that supposed to be what I think it is?
And it also is like an extent is like perceive it how you would like it to be perceived.
Yes.
But definitely there are sometimes when you're the artist, there's a meaning and you want that to be portrayed.
If you want,
and if you're not, if you're art is so creative and obscure that it's not, there's a chance of it getting lost in translation. Make sure to clarify that.
Yeah, because you don't want people to get the wrong idea. Well, it doesn't have to be like a bad idea, but it's like, I don't know.
They're perceiving it wrong, and you like worked hard to get that kind of like
explain yourself.
Yeah, explain yourself.
Explain yourself. But yeah, I just really hope that this year and in the future, there's just a lot more artists out there. Yeah. Whether it is contemporary art or just painting, or even you said sculpting or like doing metal. I don't know, but I just really want to see more of that because I feel like it's so important. Yeah, like don't be scared to just do something. It doesn't have to be good. It does not have to be good. I promise you, it'll get good eventually, or maybe it even won't. But if you just have fun, that's literally all that matters. Yeah, it doesn't have to look perfect. Like I see in the library, there's like a glass, like a gallery of art. Oh, yeah. And these are like freshmen to juniors. I haven't seen a senior one, but like... You have. I guarantee you have. There's one? There's been senior ones up there. But like these are high school students, and I look at them and I'm like, oh my God, that's I have so one of my cool. mugs. I have one of my mugs out there, and I hate it so much, but it's like, it's one of the only things that I've ever had presented out there. Which one is it? It's the one that's the jeans. That was you? Yeah. I loved that one. That was like my favorite. I was like, oh my God, that's so iconic. No, because she was like, you have an assignment to do. But like the thing is with me, anytime you give me any creative freedom, I'm going to stretch it out to the most possible that I can. Like I'm always like I'm creating like huge like projects, and I'm using all this clay, and then I'm like spending weeks to do this, and I'm always going above and beyond, and I'm always like trying to step out of the box so that it interests me, because if it's not interesting to me, I'm not going to get it done. Right. And so she was like, you have to do a rodeo piece. And I was like, are you kidding me? And so that's what I ended up doing. I was like, you know what? This kind of looks like jeans. But I love that one. I find it just so cool. Like, I looked at it. I didn't even know it was yours. We are definitely our worst critics. Like, you might think your thing is trash, but, like, somebody might like it. So do it. Share it. Yeah, because we're all different. Like, me, I used to draw in, like, 5th grade, but I stopped. My mom was always like, oh, you're so good at drawing. And I'm like, But, like, when I see artists in the school, I'm like, that is so cool. Yeah. I love the, like, whatever it's supposed to be. I think it's awesome. Yeah, this like whole idea of like having like this pressure that you need to like live up to a certain expectation. It's not true. It's a facade. It's art. It doesn't have to be perfect. Literally create, like literally go finger paint if it makes you happy. I love finger painting. I love finger painting. Like just do something fun, because it's just it doesn't have to be that serious. Yeah, you know? Because I feel like, again, we are the next. It's so scary to think about, but like we're the next adulthood. Definitely. And so I feel like for us as our Gen Z, we need to just like get out there, create art, do whatever. Well, right now there's like music art, which is respectable. Yeah. But I feel like we just need more visual. And I would love to see like one day I go into a museum and I see someone that was like my age has art on the wall. Yes. I would be like, I'm so proud of you. Yes. There's definitely a sense of kinship. Yes. It's like, oh my God, I don't know you, but I'm so proud. No, literally, anytime. Because I have like, I'm so many things. So anytime I see somebody with like, who's like similar to me in any way, shape, or form, I'm like, you go, you do that. I'm rooting for anybody who's like me. Anybody. Love positivity. But yeah, I just think that art should be produced more. Yeah. Out there more. And should be done a little bit of research before you go to a museum and try. You don't need anything fancy to do art. Like people have this really like skewed perception of, oh, I need this da 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 da. No, get a highlighter, get a school pencil, draw like a stupid duck, and like live your life. Like love that. I love that. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, yeah. So I think that's gonna be it for this podcast. All right. Toodles.